She felt a gentle touch on her shoulder, but when she turned around, no one was there. A minute later, the phone rang. Her brother had just died in another city. Something invisible connects us to the people we love, even in the moment of death. David Kessler, one of the world's leading experts on grief and loss, spent decades collecting stories like this, accounts of people who, without warning, suddenly knew that someone close to them was gone. Some see a bright light. Others hear a voice or feel a sudden pull, as if their soul is being lifted, just for a moment, at the exact time their loved one dies, often far away. These are called shared death experiences. Though rare, they have been documented by doctors, nurses, and ordinary people around the world. In this video, we explore what lies behind these mysterious events, and why they may offer powerful evidence that the soul does not leave alone. If the connection between souls can cross the boundary of death, then perhaps love itself is stronger than the end. The term shared death experience was first introduced by Dr. Raymond Moody, the same pioneering researcher who coined near-death experience. But while near-death experiences occur when someone dies and is brought back to life, a shared death experience happens to someone who is perfectly healthy and alive. In these rare and profound moments, a living person feels as if they are somehow pulled into the experience of another person's death. They may sense a sudden shift, feel themselves lifting out of their body, or witness something extraordinary, like a tunnel, a bright light, or even the presence of spiritual beings, right as someone close to them is dying, sometimes from miles away. David Kessler, a grief expert who worked closely with both Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and hospice patients, has documented numerous cases of this phenomenon. These are not imagined or dreamt events. The people who report them are wide awake, in stable health, and not under the influence of any medication. They might be walking down a hallway, sitting in traffic, or doing something entirely ordinary, when, in a sudden moment, they feel an overwhelming presence, an inner shift, or a flash of something unexplainable. Moments later, they receive the news that someone close to them has passed. In one case, a woman described seeing a flash of golden light cross her living room at the exact time her grandmother died. In another, a man awoke in the middle of the night with the vivid feeling that he was being pulled upward, floating in silence beside his dying father, who was hundreds of miles away in a hospital. He later learned his father had died at precisely that moment. These stories are not only emotionally powerful, they often include precise details, such as the time of death or symbolic visions, that match what others, including the dying, have reported in their final moments. What makes shared death experiences so compelling is their consistency. Though rare, when they do happen, they tend to follow recognizable patterns. People often describe rising or floating sensations, an awareness of light or presence, feelings of peace, or even observing scenes from the perspective of the dying person. Some report seeing the soul leave the body. Others feel as if they are gently accompanying their loved one for part of the journey, only to be sent back as the separation completes. The tone is almost always calm and sacred, filled with love, not fear. It's important to understand how these experiences differ from near-death experiences. In an NDE, the person reporting the event has physically died or come very close to death, often after trauma, surgery, or cardiac arrest. They describe leaving their body, seeing their surroundings from above, or traveling through light-filled realms before being brought back to life. In contrast, shared death experiences happen to people who remain alive, conscious, and grounded in the physical world. They are not the ones dying, but somehow, they are present for someone else's passing in a way that defies explanation. David Kessler emphasizes that shared death experiences may be one of the clearest signs that death is not the end. If a soul can reach out, intentionally or not, and draw someone into their transition, then perhaps the boundary between life and death is far more fluid than we think. These experiences don't occur because someone is expecting them. In fact, most people who experience them have never heard of the phenomenon until it happens to them. That's part of what makes them so powerful. They arrive uninvited, unplanned, and unforgettable. The idea that one person can spiritually witness or participate in another's death challenges our understanding of consciousness and connection. It suggests that love and presence don't depend on proximity or physical form. They move beyond the brain, beyond time zones, and beyond everything we thought we knew about dying. Shared death experiences may be rare, but their message is clear and consistent. Death may separate bodies, but not souls. Sometimes the most powerful truths are found not in theories, but in stories. Real experiences that defy logic and demand our attention. David Kessler once shared the account of a man who was asleep at home when he suddenly felt a strange and powerful sensation. He described it as being lifted out of his body, as if he were floating in the air. But it wasn't frightening, it felt calm, peaceful, almost sacred. In that moment, he saw his father, who was in a hospital many miles away. He felt himself moving alongside him through a tunnel of light with a quiet presence surrounding them. Then, just as suddenly, he felt himself return to his body. Later that morning, the man received a call from the hospital. His father had passed away at the exact time he had experienced this vision. He had not been told that his father was near death. He wasn't thinking about death. And yet something had drawn him into that moment, into what he later believed was the very journey of his father's soul. A similar story appeared on Reddit from a woman who was very close to her grandmother. She described waking up in the middle of the night, her room unusually silent. As she lay in bed, she suddenly saw a tunnel of soft white light form in the darkness. In that light, she heard her grandmother's voice gently say her name. It wasn't loud, it was almost like a whisper inside her heart. The feeling was peaceful, full of love. She didn't know what to make of it at the time, but it felt real. In the morning, her mother called to tell her that her grandmother had passed away quietly in her sleep. When they checked the time, it matched exactly. The vision had occurred at the moment of death. The woman later said she didn't feel fear. She felt gratitude. It was as if her grandmother had stopped to say goodbye. One of the most moving stories comes from a mother who felt an intense sensation in her chest, like warmth and light filling her from within. She had no idea why it was happening. She described it as feeling as if something beautiful and powerful had passed through her. It lasted only a few seconds, but it brought tears to her eyes. It was not pain, it was overwhelming love. A short time later, she received news that her adult daughter had died unexpectedly in a car accident. When the details came in, she realized the moment she had felt that light was the exact time her daughter had passed. She didn't see a tunnel or hear a voice. She simply felt her daughter's presence in the most intimate and undeniable way. What connects all these stories is not just the emotional impact, but the precision of the details. These people weren't dreaming. They weren't sick or under stress. They were fully conscious, going about their lives, when something extraordinary happened, something that aligned perfectly with the death of someone they loved. The timing, the sensations, and the emotional clarity all point to a phenomenon that is not easily explained by coincidence. David Kessler, in reflecting on these experiences, has said that they often remove the fear of death. For those who go through them, death no longer feels like a cold ending. Instead, it becomes a shared moment of connection, one last act of love between two souls. These experiences do more than comfort the living, they transform them. People speak of feeling forever changed, of gaining a deeper understanding of what it means to live, love, and let go. In every story, there is a common thread, the sense that the person who died did not leave alone, that someone walked with them, even if just for a moment. And those who remained behind were given a rare glimpse of what lies beyond the veil. A moment of mystery, yes, but also a moment of deep peace. David Kessler has spent his entire career listening to the dying and those who love them. In his view, shared death experiences are not random events or tricks of the mind. They are moments of deep spiritual significance, signals that something larger is at work when a soul leaves the body. Kesler believes that these experiences may reveal an invisible bond between people, a kind of energetic connection that doesn't end with death. He has said that the soul, in its final act, sometimes invites a loved one to witness its passage, not to frighten or overwhelm them, but to share one last moment of love and unity. In his writings and interviews, Kessler avoids dramatic or mystical claims. He doesn't try to explain what exactly happens after death. Instead, he simply pays attention to what people report, again and again, across cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. And what they describe is remarkably similar: a sense of being drawn to the dying, a vision of light or presence, a moment of profound stillness that seems to transcend space and time. According to Kesler, this is not something people imagine or wish for. It often comes as a complete surprise, and it stays with them forever. He explains that in many of these shared death experiences, the person who remains alive is not seeking anything spiritual. They are not meditating or praying or expecting a sign. They are often in the middle of ordinary life, driving, reading, sleeping, when something happens that breaks through reality. The experience feels more real than a dream. It is peaceful but powerful, and above all, it is emotional. People speak of feeling suddenly connected to the dying in a way they can't explain. As Kesler puts it, love doesn't die, and maybe it's love that allows us to be with them, just for a moment, when they leave. This idea, that souls remain connected even through death, is not unique to modern spiritual thinkers. Many ancient traditions speak of the invisible thread between people, especially those bonded by love or blood. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is said that at the moment of death, the soul may reach out to those it is closest to. In Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah describes a web of soul connections that spans lifetimes. Indigenous cultures often describe death as a journey, and some believe that loved ones can accompany the soul for part of that path. While the language differs, the message is similar. Death is not isolation, it is transition, and sometimes that transition is shared. Yet Kesler remains grounded in lived experience. He emphasizes that he is not a theologian or a philosopher, he is someone who listens. Over the years, he has noticed that these shared moments often happen between people who have a strong emotional bond, even if they were separated by distance. He recalls stories of estranged family members who had not spoken in years, but still experienced a powerful connection at the moment of death. It is as if the soul, in its final clarity, chooses to reach out, to offer peace or forgiveness, or simply presence. For Kesler, the significance of these experiences goes far beyond the mystical. They are acts of healing. When someone shares in the final moments of a loved one's passing, even unknowingly, it can transform their grief. The pain of loss remains, but it is accompanied by a sense of completion, a feeling that they were part of something sacred. People often say it changed how they view death forever. They no longer fear it. Instead, they see it as part of the bond that love creates, something that doesn't break when the heartbeat stops. At its core, Kesler's view is simple. Shared death experiences are not about death. They are about love. They are about presence, and they may be the most intimate form of goodbye we are given. For those who have lived through it, there is no need for proof. The experience itself is the message. It says, "I was there. You were not alone, and we are still connected." Skeptics often try to explain shared death experiences through familiar concepts, hallucinations, emotional stress, or wishful thinking. But the more you study these cases, the harder it becomes to dismiss them so easily. One of the most striking facts is that shared death experiences don't happen to people who are confused, ill, or under the influence of drugs. In most cases, they happen to healthy, fully conscious individuals going about their normal lives, at work, at home, or even asleep. These people are not anticipating death, nor are they mentally preparing for it. In many instances, they don't even know that their loved one is dying. And yet, at the exact moment of death, they experience something they later struggle to describe, something beyond their normal perception, but unmistakably real. What makes these experiences difficult to categorize as fantasy is their clarity and timing. People report vivid, structured events, feelings of light, presence, elevation, or being momentarily transported, without confusion or fear. More importantly, these experiences often match the precise moment their loved one passes, down to the minute. Many only learn afterward that the death occurred at the same time they felt the event. These are not general impressions or vague intuitions. They are sharply defined, emotionally charged experiences that leave a lasting impact. David Kessler has repeatedly emphasized that these are not the result of grief or trauma. In fact, most shared death experiences occur before the person even knows that someone has died. There is no anticipation, no emotional buildup, no psychological trigger. That's part of what makes them so powerful. They come uninvited, unexpected, and without any logical cause. For those who experience them, they feel more real than anything else, more real than dreams, more coherent than imagination. They don't fade like memories, they stay. Raymond Moody, who first coined the term shared death experience, also noted this precision and emotional depth. In his research, he documented dozens of cases where people witnessed parts of the death journey, tunnels, lights, out-of-body moments, even though they were far from the person who was dying. These patterns were too consistent to ignore. William Peters, founder of the Shared Crossing Project, has taken this research further, gathering hundreds of testimonies and developing criteria to help document and understand them. His work confirms what Kesler observed. The phenomenon is rare, but real, and the people who go through it don't seek it. They are simply present in ways we still don't fully understand. If these experiences were the result of imagination or coincidence, they wouldn't show such consistency across cultures, religions, and backgrounds. They wouldn't happen with such precision or leave such profound emotional effects. And they certainly wouldn't all describe the same sensations: a lifting, a presence, a light, a goodbye. The repetition of these details in independent, unrelated cases strongly suggests that we are witnessing something genuine, something that science has not yet fully explained, but cannot easily dismiss. In the end, shared death experiences may not be a rare exception. Perhaps they are rare only in perception, because not everyone is able to feel or recall them. Maybe, in the quiet moments of passing, these experiences are always unfolding. We just don't always notice. And maybe, just maybe, this is how the soul reminds us that we are more than bodies, and that love doesn't end at death. It simply changes form. For David Kessler, these stories are not about proving anything. They are about listening, about honoring what people experience at one of the most sacred thresholds of life. When someone says, "I was there with him," or "I felt her pass through me," they are not making it up. They are sharing something deeply human and profoundly mysterious. If the soul truly does not leave alone, then even death cannot break the bond we share with those we love. It means that, at the end, none of us are ever truly alone. And that may be the greatest comfort of all. Dear friends, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you soon.